What would you do if your first day on the job came with a warning like this? If you hear someone whistling in the trees, do not whistle back. It isn't a person. When I first read those words, I laughed out loud, like some rookie who thought park rangers were just superstitious. But later, standing alone under the canopy of endless pines with only a lantern flickering in my hand, I realized it wasn't a joke. It was survival. I took the job out of desperation. My landlord had slipped a final notice under my door. My phone bill was overdue, and my pride wouldn't let me crawl back to my family and admit I'd failed again. The ad was short and vague. Ranger wanted. Housing included. Meals provided. Night patrol required. That was it. No details. No promises of adventure. Just a lifeline I couldn't ignore. The bus dropped me on a cracked strip of asphalt miles inside Yellowstone. The forest towered on all sides, swallowing the road in walls of green. It smelled sharp, pine dirt, damp air that clung to your lungs. A battered ranger truck waited for me. Behind the wheel sat a man carved from stone, weathered skin, eyes pale as ice, uniform creased sharp. His badge read Harrison, though everyone whispered and called him the captain. "You're the new blood." His voice rasped like gravel under boots. I nodded, nervous. He didn't smile, didn't shake my hand. He reached into his jacket and slid me a folded piece of laminated paper. The corners were frayed, the surface stained, like it had been handled for decades. Read it. Memorize it. Don't ask questions. Follow every word, or the forest will take you. Then he turned the truck around and drove off, leaving me alone with a paper clutched in my hand. I reached the ranger station at dusk. It was a squat log cabin, windows boarded on the lower levels, lanterns glowing faint inside. My boots crunched gravel as I climbed the steps. Inside, I finally unfolded the paper. It wasn't a checklist. It wasn't trail schedules or fire safety. It was rules. At first, I chuckled. It read like a bad horror story. But when I looked at the other rangers in the station, no one else was laughing. Their faces were blank, tired, eyes hollow like they'd already seen too much. That's when the truth sank in. This wasn't hazing. This was survival. Rule 1, the whistling. My first night started calm. The forest hummed with crickets. Owls hooted in the distance. The lantern swung from my hand, casting a warm glow. I started to believe the rules were just exaggerations. Then I heard it. A whistle. 3 notes, faint and clear, drifting through the pines. Up, down, up. It froze me where I stood. At first I thought it was another ranger messing with me, maybe testing if I'd follow the rules. But the sound grew closer, weaving through the trees like it was circling me. My instincts screamed to whistle back, to prove I wasn't afraid. But the words burned in my mind. Do not whistle back. So I gripped the lantern tighter and kept walking, slow, steady, eyes on the dirt path. The whistle followed. Always 3 notes. Always circling. When I reached the cabin and slammed the door shut, the sound cut off instantly. The next morning, I found boot prints in the dirt outside. My size, my tread, but they circled the cabin like someone or something had walked endless loops all night. Rule 2, the crying. The second night, it was worse. Around 1:30 a.m., I heard crying. A woman's voice, soft, broken, drifting through the trees. "Help me, please." It clawed at my chest. Every instinct told me to run toward it. Someone could have been hurt, lost, freezing in the woods. But the rules echoed. Never follow the sound of crying. I froze, teeth clenched, every muscle trembling. The crying grew louder. Closer. "Please help." Then the voice changed. Deeper like a man's, then higher like a child's. Same words. Same rhythm. Help me. My stomach twisted. From a tree leaned, two faint yellow eyes blinked open. Watching. I bolted back into the cabin, slamming the bolt shut. The crying echoed all night, circling, never fading. At dawn, silence, but claw marks scarred the door. Long, deep, carved straight through the wood. Rule 3, the tower. By the third night, I was unraveling. My hands shook as I lit the lantern, every creak in the forest making my skin crawl. The rule sheet's next warning burned in my head. Always lock the observation tower door before midnight. I didn't understand why until I almost forgot. At 11:58, I was halfway to the tower when I heard footsteps above me. Slow, heavy, pacing. My chest froze. The tower was supposed to be empty. I sprinted up the steps 2 at a time, slammed the heavy door shut, and twisted the bolt just as something crashed against the wood from the other side. The impact rattled the whole tower. I pressed my back against the door, lantern shaking in my grip as something scraped the wood. Then silence. When dawn came, I unlocked the door and stepped outside. Fresh boot prints lined the deck. My size, my tread, leading up to the door, but none leading away. Rule for the deer. By the fourth night, I started avoiding the woods entirely. I stuck to the trails, lantern in one hand, rule sheet clutched in the other like a lifeline. That's when I saw them. Deer. A whole herd standing in the clearing, perfectly still. Heads raised, ears pricked. Their eyes glowed too bright in the lantern light. I almost smiled until I remembered. Do not feed the deer. They are not deer. One of them stepped closer. Its legs bent wrong. Too many joints. Its jaw cracked open, wider than a deer's jaw should open, rows of teeth glinting. My breath caught. I backed away, slow, careful. The herd turned in unison, heads tilting too far, watching. I didn't run. I walked steady, back to the cabin, every step trembling. When I looked out the window an hour later, the clearing was empty. But muddy hoof prints pressed against the cabin walls, higher than any deer could reach. Rule 5. If you find a second shadow that doesn't belong, leave the area immediately. The fifth night, I was assigned to patrol the lower trails near the geyser basins. The steam hissed from cracks in the earth, and the air reeked of sulfur, thick enough to sting the back of my throat. The moonlight was strong, silver rays slicing through the forest. My lantern threw my shadow long and sharp across the dirt path, except there were two. At first, I thought it was a trick of the light, but when I froze, my shadow froze too. The other one didn't. It moved a half-second late, lagging behind like it was pretending to be me, but not well enough. My chest locked tight. The rule flared in my mind. If you find a second shadow that doesn't belong, leave the area immediately. I didn't think. I just bolted. My boots slammed the earth, breath tearing out in ragged gasps as the second shadow followed, stretching longer, closer. Branches whipped my arms as I sprinted back toward the cabin, the lantern swinging wildly. When I slammed the door shut, the shadow pressed against the wall outside, shape writhing. At dawn, it was gone, but the outline of a body burned into the dirt, charred black, like something had been scorched into the earth. Rule 6. The radio stopped working after 3 a.m. If you hear voices on the channel, ignore them. By now, I didn't laugh at the rules. I didn't question them. I lived by them. But the sixth night tested me more than any other. At 2:58 a.m., my radio crackled. A low hiss, then a voice. Daniel, you there? It was Ranger Harris, one of the few who'd spoken to me during the day. His voice was hoarse, frantic. Daniel, please. I need backup. Southridge. Hurry. Static swallowed the rest. I gripped the radio tight, sweat dripping down my temple. Harris was real. I'd seen him in the mess hall. He'd even given me half a cigarette the first day. Every nerve screamed at me to respond, to help. Then the rules surfaced in my mind like ice water. The radio stopped working after 3 a.m. If you hear voices, ignore them. I checked my watch. 3:01. My hand hovered over the call button, thumb trembling. Please, the voice begged. It cracked, breaking into sobs. Daniel, don't leave me out here. Then the voice changed. Lower, then higher, cycling like a broken record. Don't leave me out here. Don't leave me out here. I threw the radio across the cabin, chest heaving. When the sun rose, Harris sat at the breakfast table, alive, quiet, eyes hollow. He didn't look at me, but under his sleeve, I saw deep gouges running up his arm, like claw marks. Rule 7. If the geysers erupt more than once in an hour, don't watch. The 7th night, my shift took me near Old Faithful. Normally, it erupted once every 90 minutes, give or take. That night, it went off twice in under an hour. At first, I thought it was just a rare natural event. Until I saw the steam. It wasn't white. It was black. Thick, rolling smoke that carried the stench of burning hair and copper. Shapes writhed inside the column. Not mist, not tricks of light. Figures, dozens of them clawing upward, arms stretching through the vapor. One of them turned its head. I swear it looked right at me. The rules screamed in my mind, don't watch. I dropped to my knees, covered my eyes, and whispered the rules like a prayer. The sound was unbearable, like screams muffled under boiling water. The earth trembled under my palms. When silence finally came, I risked a glance. The geyser stood still, steam gone, the night silent. But the ground around the geyser was wet, not with water, with something thicker, darker, blood. Rule 8. If you see smoke on a clear night, don't follow it. By the 8th night, exhaustion had carved me hollow. My eyes burned, my hands shook, and every creak of the forest sounded like it was breathing. That's when I saw it. A thin ribbon of smoke, curling into the sky from beyond the ridge. The night was clear, the stars sharp. No fires were scheduled. No campers were allowed this deep in the park. Against all reason, my legs carried me closer. Smoke meant fire. Fire meant danger. It was my job to check, right? But then the rule echoed. If you see smoke on a clear night, don't follow it. I stopped. My breath fogged in the air, though the night wasn't cold. And then I heard them. Voices in the smoke. Whispering, overlapping hundreds at once. Come closer. Help us. Burn with us. I stumbled back, clutching my lantern. The smoke writhed, stretching thin arms into the sky, then collapsed into nothing. When dawn came, the ridge was blackened in a perfect circle. The trees stood charred to ash, but no fire had burned. The rangers said nothing, but every one of them avoided that ridge for the rest of the week. Rule 9. Never answer the radios after 3 a.m. The 9th night, the silence of the forest was broken by static. The radio on my belt crackled, hissing like oil on fire. Then a voice. My own voice. Ranger Daniel, report in. My stomach turned to stone. The rule sheet blared in my mind. Never answer the radios after 3 a.m. I yanked it from my belt, set it on the ground, and backed away. The voice grew louder, sharper. Daniel, we need you. Report now. They're coming. Hurry. Every word dripped with urgency, perfect mimicry of my tone. Then another voice joined in, and another. Dozens of me's, all overlapping, all demanding I answer. I shoved the radio into a hollow log, covering my ears. At dawn, I returned to find the log split open, as if clawed from the inside. The radio was gone. When I asked about it, the other rangers only said one thing. You did the right thing. Rule 10. Never stay when the geysers go silent. The final rule wasn't about patrols. It wasn't about the forest. It was about leaving. No ranger stays longer than 10 days. Leave before the 10th sunrise. I thought I could handle it. Just one more night. Just one more patrol. But by the 10th sunrise, I understood. The moment the first light touched the trees, the forest went silent. No birds, no wind, and then the trees leaned. Not bent in the breeze leaned. Toward the station. Every pine, every fir, every skeletal branch stretched, groaning like bones, pointing to me. The windows blackened, shadows pressed against the glass. Hence, hundreds of them. Pale, thin, too long. Pressing, beckoning. I bolted, bag half zipped, boots pounding the dirt. I didn't stop until the ranger jeep roared down the trail, leaving the forest shrinking in the rearview mirror. When I finally reached the highway, the sky cleared. The trees stood straight. The world was normal again. I quit the moment my boots hit pavement. The paycheck still sits uncashed in a drawer. But some nights, when the wind slides through the cracks of my apartment windows, I hear it. Whispers. Voices calling my name in perfect unison. And I know one thing. Those rules weren't written for Yellowstone. They were written for me. Backhand index pointing right, drop a comment. Would you last 10 nights as a ranger in Yellowstone or quit on the first rule? Smash subscribe if you'd even try.